Welcome to our Gutenberg What Does It Mean to Me Q&A panel for Gutenberg and WordPress. This is a recorded presentation at our WordPress St. Petersburg Meetup at the Tech Garage on May 3rd.
Okay, folks, this is WordPress St. Petersburg, and tonight we're going to be talking about Gutenberg and what does it mean to me. This is a Q&A panel for Gutenberg and WordPress. Let me turn my thingy on. We'll start with the business part of the stuff. This is WordPress St. Petersburg. We meet at downtown St. Pete at the Tech Garage on the first and third Thursdays of the month. The first Thursday of the month is our standardized talk, something like this. And our third Thursday of the month is kind of like a Ask Us Anything crowdsourcing workshop. You just come in, ask questions, and we try to answer what they are. That is our Meetup website, which if you made it here tonight, you probably have been there before. If you've never looked at our Tampa Bay WP.org website, please start using it, because all of our videos, all of our talks, all of our schedules are on there, and it's a very good resource. We also have the link to our Slack chat, our Facebook group, and of course the other meetups in Tampa Bay. I keep calling us a member of the Tampa Bay WordPress Network, but no one else is actually hosting anything right now. We're the only ones doing it, so...
We are the Tampa Bay WordPress Network.
We are the Tampa Bay WordPress Network. That's pretty much it. So, come on you. There we go. Upcoming meetups. In 2 weeks, on May 17th, we're going to have a WordPress crowdsourcing workshop. On the 1st of June, on June 7th, we're having a Web Accessibility ADA Section 508, What Does It Mean for Your Website, talk. It's these two little guys in the very back of the room there, Joe and Steve, will be hosting that talk. So I'm very happy that more folks are stepping up to do talks at our WordPress meetups. So definitely make sure that you can make it to that one if you can. In June, the second Thursday, of course, we're having another crowdsourcing workshop. And then July 5th, Semi there is going to be doing a talk on SEO basics and configuration. And thank you, man. Appreciate it. So we're covered now through July. So if you do want to do a talk, we are looking for speakers. Do you have a subject on WordPress you'd like to talk to others about? Would you like to try your hand at public speaking in a safe space? We promise we won't be mean to you. Would you like to pad your resume? Believe it or not, talking at things like this, at these little volunteer things, is actually really good for your resume when you're trying to get a job. And the website, tampabaywp.org, speakers/fall. I am Jim True. I am the support lead and community manager of the PODS framework. I'm also the organizer for WordPress St. Petersburg. Elaine Simmons is my co-organizer. Together we manage this area. Pods is a custom content development framework for WordPress. Pods.io is our website. JimTrue.com is my website. @JimTrue is my Twitter handle. This nice fellow over here is Travis Lopes. He is the developer and Gutenberg specialist at RocketGenius. These are the people behind Gravity Forms. Notice there's no contact information for him. He's a secret CIA agent. So anyway, so tonight, Guten or Gutenberg? So are you hoping that it's going to be something good for you? Or is it going to be a gigantic iceberg out there that your ship's going to crash into? We don't know. I will tell you one nice little thing. That most of the stuff of what it's going to impact you is this little bit up here. Most of all of this down here, unless you're a developer, a plugin developer, a theme developer, or something of that nature, most of Gutenberg is not going to impact you at all. I'm not going to talk about right now exactly what Gutenberg is, but I am going to give you some resources. All of these will be on the video link. They'll be on the Meetup. They'll be on our slides and everywhere else. So I'm going to make sure that all 4 of those links are everywhere they possibly can be, so that if you're looking for more information on Gutenberg, you can find out about it. The first one is the Gutenberg Times. The organizer of the Southwest Florida Meetup group, WordPress Meetup group, Birgit. I can't remember Birgit's last name. That's my bad. I was just down there doing a talk in Naples. But anyway, she runs a website where she collects all of the information from different plugins, themes, from WordPress, etc., and kind of like coalesces it all in one location. It's a very good resource if you want to know, pretty much want to know where to start at or where to go. That's a good one. Gutenberg is a patch plugin update for WordPress that's coming in WordPress 5.0.
Yes.
Yeah. It's going to impact a lot of things. If you run websites for clients, It's going to impact you a lot because it's going to change the editor interface that they're used to. That's pretty much what we're going to be talking about tonight, is trying to answer any of the questions you guys might have about it, and also give you ways of like having so that you don't have to deal with it for as long as you don't want to have to deal with it. Because that's kind of the point, is that for most people it won't mean anything. But if all you're working on is blog posts and pages, you'll actually might like it. Yeah. But anyway, so another one there is Zach Gordon's Intro to Gutenberg, but it's primarily development. So if you're writing plugins or writing theme development, that might be a really good course to start with. There's a talk that Morten Rand Hendrickson did at WordCamp US 2017 in Nashville. That's the full link to it. It's on WordPress TV. It's a really good overview video of what it could mean for WordPress if they do it the right way, and if they put the right development resources to it, what kind of a change it might make in the world.
But the development of Gutenberg has been moving fast enough that it might be a little bit outdated.
Yeah, it might be.
5 months?
Yeah, about that. And the last one there is a link we got from the Automatic team, who is the folks behind WordPress.com, and they don't own WordPress.
WooCommerce.
Yeah, WooCommerce, thank you. Yeah, Automatic. Basically, the folks that pay a lot of money to get WordPress. Their WordPress VIP team also gave us a handful of how-to videos and the links to them as well. So those are also quite helpful. And I think that's it on our resources there. So now we're really at the point where we might want to be able to show you what it means to you guys as far as like Gutenberg goes. So I'm going to get out of the slide mode here and move into web mode. Let's see. Go into the standard. Yeah.
And one reason why it's like extremely important to know what Gutenberg is everyone always preaches, keep your website up to date, to avoid security issues and all that. When major updates come along to WordPress and you go into the WordPress admin, it just says, hey, click here to update. It doesn't tell you what's coming in the update, and it isn't until you have done that update till you find out, hey, my editor screen is completely changed. I don't know how to use this thing.
How many of you, when they did the update for WordPress, that did the shortcode mess up when they changed the little text box widgets? Like, if you ever had a text box widget and you had like HTML code in it, maybe you had like your AdWords, or you had something in there like a shortcode that did a specific thing. It was in like the little text editor box, and everyone was so used to the shortcode text editor widgets. Well, WordPress did an update, and they went through and changed all of those to the visual editor, and it broke anyone that went into the text editor after that point. And they still never fixed it. They sat on it forever.
That was recently, right?
That was like
that was the last major update.
One of the last major updates. 4.8. It was 4.8. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing we're talking about here. When they go through and they change the WordPress editor, the main place where everybody goes to create their posts or their pages, if they're going to the about page and everything else, and you suddenly change that entire interface, your clients are going to go, what? I don't know how to do this. What am I going to do? And they scream and they holler at you. That's what's going to happen if you're not aware of it coming before you do the maintenance on it. And that's kind of like the text editor thing. It broke hundreds of websites because people were, we've always used the text editor to put in HTML and shortcodes and everything else in there, and they went through and changed it to a visual editor. And when you went into it again, it broke all of your HTML. And then they created a new one that's just for HTML. But the thing is that that's what they should have done with the visual editor. They should have just made a visual editor widget instead of replacing the one that already existed. They always talk about backwards compatibility, but they don't live by that rule. So anyway, so this is our goal on this entire talk, is to try to, and it's not a big talk, it's a Q&A mostly, and demos and stuff, to show you kind of what it's going to mean to you. Things you can do to make sure that it doesn't impact your sites. If you manage a lot of sites, there's a plugin, I played with it this morning. It's called Gutenberg Manager. And this is pretty much what it does. On the main settings screen, it has a global option, globally disable Gutenberg. So you can install this in advance. Go ahead and click that, and Gutenberg will never ever, oh, sorry, yeah, thank you. We'll go a little bigger, actually. Can you guys read that?
No.
Yes, no, maybe?
No.
Bad screen, bad eyes? Okay. I can go a little bit bigger. Let's see if I can get, there we go. That'll get rid of the left-hand menu though. But yeah, in this settings menu, it has a globally disabled Gutenberg. You can turn it off across the entire site. But you can also very easily say, leave it on for pages and posts because I've trained them how to do that. But for all my custom post types, I could turn them off if I wanted to. It also has some additional settings for some stuff that's coming down the road. So, and they even tell you, you know, they give you specific notes about that kind of stuff, and more features are coming. But I checked this one out, and it's a very clean plugin, and it works pretty well. So let me go back a little bigger, so I've got my menu on the left.
Who did it come from?
It is from Uncommons team.
Uncommons?
Yeah. All you really need to look for is Gutenberg Manager. It's called, and it'll say a simple and easy way to manage Gutenberg Editor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found every time I type in something, I get 10 people that do a similar thing.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those little annoying things, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, because right now the Gutenberg editor itself is actually in its own little place down here. It pops in down below, and yeah, welcome to Gutenberg. And
Which this is the Gutenberg item down at the bottom. It's just like a demo post that kind of has all the different types of content you could make with Gutenberg with it, just so you can have an easy way to play around with it.
yeah, so it's got like your title editor block. Basically, the whole concept behind Gutenberg are these little strange little blocks that have like up and down arrows to like move them if I want that down there. Like, can I drag them? I can't remember.
You should be able to now.
Where from? Like the tag, like
usually on the side.
oh,
Should.
mm,
Might be. Let's try. Let's
I'll
see
let
if
you
they-
play with it. It's not my area. I don't do a lot of editing. Basically, the interface for Gutenberg is a lot like. Apparently, they wanted to emulate the story editor from Medium, that style, that front-end editing interface. But this is still on the back end. So.
If you grab from the right-hand side.
Oh,
here.
it's the right-hand side. Okay.
But it's a little finicky.
clunky. Yeah. A little finicky. Okay. Oh, so the little three dotters, is that where it
It
connects?
just the area to the right here.
Oh my God, that's
Around
just,
it. Yeah.
wow. That is like too, okay. Sorry, we're developers and this kind of stuff drives us crazy. So,
But yeah, but everything in your post is a block. A paragraph, a heading, an image, it's all blocks. And the idea behind Gutenberg is the editor version of it. This is just phase 1 of the Gutenberg project. Phase 2 will be taking these blocks and making it so you can put them anywhere on your site. So in your sidebar, instead of everything in the sidebar being a widget, they're all blocks. In the header, you can insert blocks. In the footer, you can insert blocks.
they're
Basically,
trying,
your page becomes a bunch of blocks.
they're trying to give you the visual editor experience inside WordPress because they're trying to keep up with Wix, Squarespace, and all of the builder plugins that are out there because the builder plugins like Beaver Builder, Divi, X, Elementor, Visual Builder, WP Bakery, blah, 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 there's too many of them. All of them are competing in that space because they give people, the end user, you know, this lovely little WYSIWYG display that they can work with. Yeah, John?
Yeah, 2 questions.
Sure.
If you go into the editor
Mm-hmm.
and you've got Gutenberg installed or maybe up to 5, or when you're just typing, right? You're creating your post. You type 10 paragraphs. Does it automatically create
The
blocks
above?
for
Yeah,
every
let's find out.
paragraph?
Sure.
When you hit enter at the end of the paragraph, it's like, okay, that's the end of the block, and it creates a new block for you.
Yeah, new paragraph block by
How does
default.
it know that the new, is that the default paragraph block?
Yes.
So, okay. So now, if you wanted to create some other block
Mm-hmm.
right there, do you have to tell it right away, or can you, could you just put the text in and go back later and say change this from paragraph to a quote, a block?
So it depends on the type of block you want to convert. So every block, it can define what other types of blocks it can convert to.
Well,
Like,
yeah, right. Obviously, you're not going to create it as a text paragraph and then turn it into a photo.
Yeah.
But where it would be text, you could then just tell it to convert. I don't want this to be text. I want it to be a block.
yeah,
Yeah, I
so
couldn't
we
do
have
that.
like a paragraph block here. So we'll go ahead and can I jump in.
Yeah, jump in.
So we'll go ahead and select this, just a list paragraph block here. And if we go to up in the toolbar here, where the paragraph icon is, there's a change block type button.
Oh, okay.
And for the paragraph, you can transform it into a heading.
Got it.
You could transform it into a list,
Okay.
a quote, etc. So it all depends on the block type itself and what it allows itself to be
You're right,
transformed
because it wouldn't
into.
make any sense to go back and forth
Yeah.
between some things.
Yeah.
Which I find kind of odd because it seems like that's not that intuitive. It seems like it's more like the editor style would have been.
Yeah. So like an image block would be converted into a gallery or cover image block.
Okay, now, sometimes I create a post in another product, you know, I use Word or I have a document from someplace else.
Oh, like
And
Google
I
Doc.
cut that product out as text
Mm-hmm.
and then paste it in to, you know, the editor.
Mhm.
Does it do the same thing, just automatically goes in and creates blocks for every paragraph?
Yes, it will automatically convert all the content to blocks.
Okay, and it will recognize, you know, I guess you then gotta go back and manually change the ones that aren't paragraphs.
No, like if something's a heading, it will automatically create a heading. If it's a list item, it will automatically create a list block for it. It will automatically detect the kind of content you're pasting in. So say in Google Docs you had like a paragraph, an indented
Yeah.
list, and a
See?
paragraph,
Right.
it would import it as a paragraph, a list, a paragraph.
Okay, got it.
It just did that. I cut and pasted with headers and stuff like that. It automatically converted the headers to headers and
Okay.
yeah.
And then speaking about like all the different transforms and stuff, if you paste a shortcode into Gutenberg, by default it will put it into a shortcode block that just says shortcode and it just has a snippet of the shortcode. But block types can define and say if somebody pastes in the shortcode with this name, like for gravity form, the gravity forms block we built, we have it defined where if you paste a gravity form shortcode into Gutenberg, it will automatically convert that into a gravity forms block and bring in all the settings.
Thanks.
Oh, you said if we cut and pasted one in, right? Ah, okay. Yeah. So typing it didn't do it, but you did. If you cut and pasted it in, it did.
But you can also go in, if you wanted to type it in yourself, if you wanted to go in, you just go into the
What
block
is it?
inserter
Okay.
here,
then just
and
do
you
like
can
a
just
shortcut?
go the shortcode block.
When does it convert? Just on the front end?
Yes, it will just run with.
Friendly in going from a standard post, meaning a post created in the old editor, to a Gutenberg post.
You mean
How
like,
is it
yeah.
going back? If you've gone in, let's say you have a blog, you have 10 posts,
Mhm.
okay? And you either load Gutenberg as a plugin now, or you wait till after 5 and Gutenberg is there. And you go in and edit one post.
Mhm.
Now that post is going to be converted to Gutenberg,
Yes.
right? And all the blocks and all that stuff. Maybe you make changes, maybe you don't. And then you save it.
Mhm.
How hard is it to switch it back?
Can you switch it back if you decide, I don't want Gutenberg after all? Can you switch it back to the old editor, or are you stuck somehow?
That's a good question.
You could switch back to the new editor. So the way Gutenberg works is when you insert, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the code editor view, which is kind of like similar to the
Visual editor.
text editor view
Yeah, right.
in the current editor. And you'll see what every block looks like here. And all of,
Comments and all that. Yeah, right.
yeah, they're all surrounded by the HTML comment.
Right.
And inside is if there's HTML located between the HTML comment wrappers, that's what will be rendered on the front end.
So basically, you just delete all the comments.
Yeah, if say you wanted to roll back, if you deleted those comments, it would just render whatever is there.
Okay.
But you'll be able to disable the new interface, but it's going to still,
It would leave those comments in there.
yes. So if you say you opened an old post in a new editor,
Yes.
and it's saved,
And
and you decided you don't like the new editor, so you disabled it,
Right.
it doesn't matter that you disable the editor when it goes to render out that content on the front end. If those HTML comments still exist in the post
They're
content,
still there, but the old editor doesn't recognize.
Well, it skips the
It
comments.
purposely ignores HTML comments, so it's as if they aren't there.
yeah, so you would have to go into the text view of the old editor and strip out those comments.
But if you
But you wouldn't have to,
didn't
though,
strip
would you?
them out, you could edit a post in the old editor,
Mm-hmm.
re-edit it in Gutenberg editor, re-edit it in the old editor,
Mm-hmm.
re-edit it in Gutenberg without screwing it up, right?
Depending,
No, granted, you
Yeah.
could screw it up if you intentionally did things, you know,
it depends on the type of blocks you're using.
okay.
So for instance, Most of these blocks are what they call standard blocks, that they're just going to, as you're typing and as you're creating, it's generating out the HTML that's going to display right there.
Right.
But then there's also dynamic blocks, like the Gravity Forms block is a dynamic block. What you're setting, with the Gravity Forms block, you're choosing like what form you want it to display, if you want to display the form title. And it saves those settings in the HTML comment. And it's not rendering out the shortcode or anything. So that's all it's going to use is that HTML comment. So if you were to switch to the old editor, you wouldn't see that at all.
Okay, so you have your post, and you put in a shortcode for a gravity form,
Yeah.
all right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go look at it, and it's there, it's got the form of the page the way you want it,
Mhm.
and you come back, you edit it in Gutenberg.
Mhm.
Gutenberg converts that shortcode into the kind of information it needs, put in the HTML comments, and now, if you go back out and look at it, the form is still there, but underneath it, it's done differently.
Yeah. You won't see it in the old editor because all the information
Because
is
everything
stored
in
in
HTML.
the settings of the HTML comment.
Because there won't be a shortcode for the Gravity Forms.
Now, caveat here, for the Gravity Forms block, we do generate that legacy shortcode.
Okay.
So if you
But not all blocks
the
use
legacy
that.
shortcode is still sitting there,
Yeah.
and it would still work. It's like, it's either using the legacy shortcode if you're looking in the old editor, or it's using Gutenberg.
Well,
It
their
will always-
plugin is being smart enough to do both. Their plugin is smart enough to do both.
But
But
not
they know
every plugin, not every plugin is yet.
And the
Right.
reason why we're doing that right now is because if you were to disable the Gutenberg plugin,
Yeah.
it won't parse the HTML comments period because there's nothing there to parse the comments.
Right, right.
But once WordPress 5.0 comes out, it doesn't matter which editor you're using. If those Gutenberg style HTML comments are there, that's what it will use, regardless.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do a
I'm
quick
not-
check.
I'm not confident yet that when they come out with that, they won't have a way for you to either turn it off or.
You can turn
They
off
don't
the.
want to, but I think that my personal guess
Mhm.
is that the customers are gonna demand it.
The way it has been, as I've been following along, is the editor view you can turn off.
Yes.
But the way it renders out the content, you'll always check for those comments in render box.
Yeah, see, there's all the,
Got it.
I turned the
I
Gutenberg,
understand what you're saying now, okay.
yeah, I turned the Gutenberg off and see how all the comments are still there.
But if you were to switch that to the visual view in this editor,
Yeah. Oh, I turned it off completely.
so if you were to switch it real quick to the visual view,
Yeah,
see
nothing.
those HTML comments would disappear.
Yeah.
But they
Right,
still
they're
exist.
there, but you're not seeing them.
Yeah. And they
Well,
will
they've also got quite a bit of white space in there now.
And those HTML comments wrappers that say what each block is, they will still render.
Yeah, I got you.
Not in this context because we're using the plugin called 5.0.
Right.
So what happens when, like, say, you're using Divi or one of the other, like Divi right now will give you the option of, use Divi or use the conventional.
The classic editor, yeah.
And so you can go back and forth.
Mhm.
Well, when you're working with Divi Builder now, Divi's Builder is basically taking your entire visual space of your content block,
Right.
and it is filling it with about 1 million nested shortcodes.
Right.
That's what Divi is.
Right.
So like if you build a page with Divi, that's what it's throwing in that content editor block.
Right.
And yet it says use the classic editor or use the Divi Builder, but that's what it's really throwing in there is a gigantic block of shortcodes.
And so if you wanted to, excuse me, if you decided that you didn't want to build something with Divi and you wanted to go
This method,
or what's the odd? What are the odds of starting over?
you're gonna have to start over.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to build it over in Gutenberg, I mean that's how I look at it because Divi is it's just a builder.
Right.
Gutenberg's never going to have the level of flexibility that you're getting as far as like visual modules and stuff that you're getting from like Beaver Builder, Elementor, and Divi. I mean, there's a lot of
At least
flexibility.
not at the start.
I honestly doubt they ever will. Yeah, not unless people are just creating Gutenberg blocks that are just like these Divi blocks that have like their own style sheets and everything else.
And it's very possible, like I don't follow the visual builder space at all, that there are people out there in the community that are working on converters that will convert
Yeah.
those Divi's Builder pages
Yeah, right now
to
the-
the Gutenberg blocks.
Right now, the only builder out there that is doing an honest-to-God Gutenberg integration the appropriate way is Beaver Builder.
Right.
Elementor, I think, is working on it, but they're not quite there yet. So they would probably, if they're going to do it, they would do it probably right, because Elementor is very much about building blocks anyway, so they might be able to come up with some sort of a system that works similarly. But Divi, there's no way that they're ever going to be able to do that, because Divi has their entire whole process. Their entire front end is about visual building, and I guarantee you they're probably not going to do anything with the Gutenberg.
But just like any other change to your website, I would recommend try it out on a staging site first. Don't try it out.
Yeah, I have a dummy site that I use on.
Yeah, typically especially if these are sites that you're doing for clients, there's 3 rules we pretty much always say. Any point release on a WordPress thing, or even a non-point release, any main update whatsoever on anything that's large to your site. WordPress, WooCommerce, Easy Digital Downloads, Gravity Forms, anything that primarily impacts the workflow of your website. Before you do an update on that site, make sure that you make a copy of the site first and test the update first in development before you do it in production. And that's just standard, because you never know these are sites that your income is dependent on. You know, if it's your site, your own personal site, but it's your business, you don't want to do something that's going to break your site. And so you just want to make sure that you're...
Like we had a customer, so Gravity Forms released a major update where there's a bunch of database changes. And as a part of the database changes, there's a migration that happens, and if you have a website with a lot of forms and a lot of form submissions, that could take a while to process. And we had a customer write in saying, what do we do about this upgrade? We install the update, and the migration's taking forever, and the client's losing $450 to $1,000 a day in revenue because of this update. Well, if it's that important, you should have tested first.
Yeah, and that's primarily it. I mean, if your site is based on WooCommerce and everything you do, all of your work, everything about it is dependent on WooCommerce, and you go and throw an update of WooCommerce on your live site, that's on you. You know, I mean, yeah, you can't ever know how much the code's going to change when you do an update, so it's worth it to make at least a duplicate of your site, have a staging site, test it there first, and then do the update on your live after you know it works on development first. And that's just part of being web maintenance. Now, if you're, like I said, not all plugins are like that, but there are some, themes especially. Theme developers come and go, and it's, you know, in the theme forest world and stuff like that, there are some big theme developers like Agency X and Astra and all of these other ones out there whose names I do not come to mind immediately. They work very heavily with WordPress, and they test their stuff ahead of time, so you don't usually have to worry about it. But there are come and go theme developers, and if that theme developer hasn't made an update on the theme in quite some time, or you've only seen them, or you bought a theme off Theme Forest and you never ever saw them come back to it again, guaranteed it's going to break at some point in time down the road.
And it doesn't even have to be the thing you're updating. It could be the thing you're updating is fine, but it's conflicting with something else on your site.
Yeah.
Because they were using something probably.
Yeah. So, yeah, Sammy?
If you're using like an Elementor or other builder, like a Beaver Builder, so will the Gutenberg affect that at all if you want to keep?
I think what Beaver Builder is specifically doing is they're giving you the ability to build the page with Gutenberg, or they're giving you the ability to build the page with Beaver Builder, or they're giving you the page to do a blended mode. So like the primary content part might be built inside Beaver Builder, but then there might be other units that you've built on that page that are like call to action blocks and other kind of stuff like that that are coming from Beaver Builder. And that's kind of how they're going to work it. And I think Elementor is going to be doing the same thing. Like for us in Pods, you know, we're a content management system. So all of our stuff is about custom content. And when you're entering custom content, you're not going to be building that page. You want to give some, like it might be a patient intake form. You know, yours is all about entering in all this information about a content or a customer relationship management form. So you're entering in that stuff, you're on the phone, and you don't want to be in the middle of a stupid block
trying to figure out where the damn things start and end. You just want little input fields, and that's what you're looking for, and that's what you'll get. The only time you really care about designing an output when you're dealing with custom content is when you're trying to make that custom content look a different way. Like maybe I want a list of my current clients, or maybe I want a list of their logos down here, or that kind of a thing. It's all different. That's front-end content and display, and you'll probably never ever be in a builder type mode for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So, and even if you were, Gutenberg would have an Elementor both doing interfaces to custom content that are much cleaner and simpler than this method.
Right.
So, yeah, because all of this method is trying to steal the Squarespace people. That's really all it is. They're trying to create a visual editor that competes in the market that they want primarily, and I don't care if it goes on the video or not. I don't care who I piss off. They're doing this so that WordPress.com can be compatible or competitive with Squarespace and Wix. That's the only reason they're doing this. And they're pushing it down the throats of everybody that uses WordPress.org.
And I would say for a lot of people that use something like Divi Builder or any of the other visual page builders out there, Gutenberg will probably work for a lot of them.
Yeah.
That'll be good enough because a lot of what people use those visual builders are just for positioning, like doing stuff in columns and stuff, and Gutenberg will handle that. No problem.
Yeah, because that's the big thing. The editors never had a column thing. People have always had to go to short codes or try to figure it out in cascading style sheets. So, wow, great. They'll be able to do columns now, right there in the editor. Woohoo! You know, that's.
You say woohoo, but like 50% of people.
I know. Yeah.
One thing to point out too there is when you take an old page that's really complex and open it in Gutenberg, or even a simple page, it's got a legacy block that it opens. So it doesn't actually, by default, change anything. It's got this legacy block, which is basically your old content that's good as can be. You can hit save, you can do whatever, and it won't adjust anything on it. It won't break anything, it won't change
Where's
anything.
the legacy block at? Just curious.
Just take a regular page, it's not Gutenberg, and hit
Okay, so
edit.
that's never mind. It's going to
Go
immediately
ahead,
go to
go ahead
Gutenberg.
and go to pages. There should be the sample page there.
Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you. Sample page, yeah. Classic editor,
Go to edit.
Regular edit.
regular edit. Okay.
And if you look at,
Switch to the.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Boy, it's so
and if
confusing.
you look at what that block actually is, it's a single block with everything. So it's actually, it's not called legacy block, I forget what
They
it's
call
called.
it classic. Yeah,
Classic,
classic.
thank you.
Okay.
But it does do a really good job of keeping that content and not breaking. So things like your complex Divi Builder stuff, you don't have to worry all that much on it.
Well, most of your Beaver Builder
Maintain
stuff wouldn't be
everything.
in one of those anyway. Beaver Builder specifically keeps the content separated from.
Yeah, but the shortcode, what I'm saying though, all that
No,
shortcode has to
Beaver
be-
Builder never does
Oh,
shortcodes
okay.
within the classic editor at all. That's why I like it. Yeah.
So what you're saying, if I understand you correctly, is that the first time you come up in Gutenberg mode with an existing post, it creates a copy of that post and puts it in this block of, like, original block or whatever.
A classic.
Classic
It's
block.
not even a copy.
And then
it's the original.
duplicates the data in the classic block in what's Gutenberg blocks.
You'd actually
And
notice.
so it's not switching.
Oh, it's not. It didn't convert it. It kept it in classic.
Yeah,
You have to
won't
break it up
convert
yourself.
all automatically.
Yeah.
You can cut and paste that whole thing, paste it in Gutenberg, and then it'll separate them into your separate blocks.
So like
But if you
here,
don't do that intentionally, it won't change it on you.
So what happens once you cut and paste?
Then you have separate blocks and everything.
So-
That's an intentional action. You have to split that up into separate pages.
Yeah, but
with
you
separate blocks.
can't, will you be able to go back to this?
No, once you get it there, you can take out all their codes. If you went back to classic editor, take out all the.
well, two items real quick. So here
Yeah,
we have the sample page in this classic block. If we pull up the ellipsis, they call it the more menu here to the right of the block. There is a convert to blocks menu item, which will just go ahead and convert all these items into their block form.
Right.
But then you can also go ahead and insert, when you go to insert a new block, there is a classic block. That will be that exact same thing.
Oh, it's even got the same
Yeah.
editor interface at the top. It's just
Yeah.
floating inside
It's
the
the
visual.
tiny
editor.
MCE.
Yeah. Okay.
Block.
Interesting.
Wow.
Fascinating.
Well, when you were demoing the Gutenberg blog and then you did the short code under it,
Mm-hmm.
so the purpose of that short code is now you can put that block somewhere else in the site?
No, it's where you wanted it to be. I mean, you had that shortcode block with a shortcode in it. It was just where it was in the page on that particular place. You could drag it if you wanted to, but I mean, that's where you wanted it to be, so you left it there.
But let's
Just like you do a shortcode
Yeah,
now.
but people aren't used to seeing a bunch of shortcodes in the editor.
Yeah, they are. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're using a shortcut,
Text.
sure.
Like
Yeah.
let's say for instance we have this shortcode block here for the it's going to show a bunch of books that are listed on your site for
one book
pods.
probably on that one, yeah.
Yeah.
So the visual editor might show it. I don't know.
So what we can do, and this applies for any block, we can go to the More menu here and we can convert this to a shared block. And we'll go ahead and name this the Pods Books block,
Yeah.
Books list, and save that. And then I can go in and add a new post elsewhere. And I can go insert a new block, and I can go to my shared blocks, and here's that Pods book list. If I hover over it, it'll show me a preview of what it is to the right, and I can just go ahead and insert that there. And now,
But you're right. Your clients aren't used to seeing those weird things in the middle of their content flow.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the thing, is that's something for you to decide, is that certain times, if you're controlling the way the content works, if the only way to show the content is with a shortcode, then that would mean that that's a page you never ever want that client to be able to touch anyway, right? So that's when you use something like a members access thing and you say this page cannot be touched by anyone but an admin. And then that way that client would never be able to edit that page. However, if you've gotten them used to using specific shortcodes for specific things, then that would be something they put in there. Me, I'm not a big fan of ever having the end user have to ever use a shortcode. I want them to go in and enter their blog posts. I don't want them touching pages because there's really no reason for them to, but if they're going to, they should have a standard editor to edit the standard content for the page. And if you've designed the page so that it's got different kind of content coming from different places, let's say it's an about page and you've got a list of staff members, or you've got like an about page and it's got like some very specific content that comes from different places on your site, then that information should be in a place that they can very easily enter that information, and then it automatically populates that about page based on that information from other
but
places.
depending on what some of that content is, it's nice that you can do this online. Like you can create a call to action that you use throughout the site, and then you can convert that to a shared block, insert that around different parts of your site, and then if you need to change that, you can just go to the block, hit edit, and modify the block, save it, and it will update anywhere that it's displayed.
Yeah, which is what builders do too.
Yeah.
So I go one way or the other. When I'm one of those kind of ones that when I give a site over to a client, I primarily give them content screens to complete. And if they've got shared and specific content, you know what I do. I do custom post types and custom fields and custom taxonomies, and I give them a very clean interface for entering their information. And that's what they do. I would never ever have them build a site because that's not their job. That's what they hired me to do. So.
You have a card to get that in?
Yeah. No, we're not. You have to stand here. I'll give you a cut. No problem. So, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff you've got to decide for yourself, depending on what you do for your clients, or if the site, if you are your clients, or if it's your site for yourself. You know, that's going to be the big determination of how much this is going to impact you. If you manage lots of sites for all of your clients, this is probably going to impact you a lot, because especially if they hit the little update buttons on their own and you have to come back and slap their hands for it. You know, one of those kind of things. So, I know you guys have got questions. You all look also questioning. There you go.
I really don't know enough to talk about, but I use Elementor.
Yeah.
So is that still going to work with this Gutenberg?
You would need to check with Elementor, because if you're using Elementor and you're building most of your sites with Elementor, you need to just keep up with them on their blog. They'll let you know. And if they don't, reach out to their support and ask them, what's your plans for Gutenberg?
So if I've already set up pages like that in WordPress, can I still go back and customize it that way? And
the main thing it comes down to is that if it's a page and you've built it with Elementor, primarily Elementor is going to step in and it'll be the editor that pops in first. if they have, and they better, because they'll be knocked out of the marketplace if they don't have any kind of Gutenberg interface there, they will more than likely say, this page is managed by Elementor, no Gutenberg, or something of that nature. So.
But you could very much as easily, when WordPress 5.0 comes around, update, don't go and edit any of your pages yet, download that Gutenberg Manager plugin, disable the Gutenberg editor from ever appearing,
Yeah.
and then continue to go about your business.
Yeah. And that might be.
Because as long as you don't edit your content in the new Gutenberg editor, it won't be affected by the new Gutenberg editor.
Right. Yeah. It won't go into that weird mode with all the little strange little comments and everything. It won't do that until you go in and edit those things. But that's just like when they pushed out that text editor that broke all the, all the shortcodes and stuff that people had in widgets.
And then we only have some pages Gutenberg and some.
Sure. Yeah. As long as you define it that way. That's kind of the problem, is like right now you've got the ability to choose.
Yeah.
You may not have that ability when WordPress 5.0 gets pushed out.
It might, I believe WordPress 5.0 won't ship with that. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
That in
They were saying
out of the
April.
box that you can't just click Classic
Yeah.
Editor. But there's already a plugin by like WordPress core contributors for
Yeah.
that already out there.
Yeah.
I think it's called
It's Classic Editor.
Yeah, it's
is what it
Classic
is.
Editor or something like that.
Basically, just keep an eye out for. I gave you a couple links there. I'll make sure that the link is in there for the Gutenberg Manager, but I'll also make sure that there's a link for the Classic Editor plugin. Pop that on your site now, and you won't be impacted. Okay?
So we download it when we get it.
Yeah.
So you're saying when they actually do this 5.0, if we haven't gone in and done this plugin, we hit the disable button. I actually have an e-commerce website.
Yeah, you need to keep up on it. You just need to keep up on it is primarily it. Is
But
keep an
my
eye
developer
on
walked, so I'm stuck in the middle of crap.
I'm sorry?
My developer disappeared off the face of the earth, so I'm stuck in the middle of
Okay.
trying to figure shit out.
Get on the Facebook group and stuff like that, and find you a new developer and stuff like that too. I mean, it helps to know how to manage your site yourself and how to
Well,
handle
I
it
pretty
yourself.
much did. I've been doing that, but the updates are just updates are always mess up my site, always do everything
Do you
wrong.
have a development copy of your site? A staging copy?
Well, she did a staging copy. I just don't understand. I don't understand how. You
Get
know
with
what
your-
you were talking about testing it there?
Yeah.
I don't understand any of it.
Okay, get with your hosting company first and talk to them.
I did.
Get the developer out of your picture, since she's not there
been
anyway.
For a long time.
Yeah,
When I
but
called
that's what I would
them,
say is-
They're lost to it. They're like, they don't.
Who are you
understand
hosting with?
WP Engine.
They,
They don't understand why stuff is happening to my website.
that's not
Every time
normal
I
for
do
them.
updates with them,
Yeah.
always something changes. And they don't understand why I have to keep putting it back. I just did the other one, I had to put it back on. And so they don't know what's going on. So last time they suggested, I was here, they suggested I call the key company, but I can't figure out how to call them either. So,
Who's your theme with?
it's Jessica theme?
Never heard of that.
See, that's what I'm saying, so I'm kind of lost, so I was.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy a theme by anybody with their name in it.
I was worried that when they go to
That's
do
her
this,
company. Is it?
when they go to do this update, which I probably won't do for a while.
Yeah.
I really should, because of everything that's been affected, download that plugin and just say no for now.
Well,
Just until I
okay.
can get it all worked
With
out.
WP Engine, this is the thing that you've got the ability to do. With WP Engine, you have the ability to go in and say, make a staging copy of your live site at any point in time. You can just push a button and it goes to staging, just
There
like
is
that.
already one there.
Delete everything
Okay.
that's already in there as your
Okay.
stagings right now. Anything that your prior developer did, just whack it.
Okay.
Touch base with WP Engine if you don't feel comfortable with it, because their support people will tell you that too. It's like, I don't really care what's in the staging, it's all messed up anyway. All I care about is my live site right now.
Okay.
I need a place to test updates before they go live. Can we make sure that my staging copy that I'm making right now is exactly like my production? And that's what I would reach out to them about. They're very
And
good.
if I do the update and the staging and it locks out the website,
Then what you want to do is like, you need to start making an inventory list. This is something we would talk about at our Ask Us Anything meeting. But when you're troubleshooting a live site that's that complicated, that's obviously when every time you do an update something breaks, you need to start isolating your fault domain.
Okay.
What that means is that, okay, something is breaking my site, but I have no idea what it is.
So right now, your fault domain is this gigantic circle that you have no idea what it is. So in your staging copy, the one that's an exact copy of your production site, go in there and turn off everything.
What do you mean by turn off?
Disable all the plugins.
And disable every single one of them, except for WooCommerce probably.
Okay.
Because
that's
that's
the one that always gets affected. That's the part that ends up going wonky.
It goes wonky because of something else more than likely. So you need to find out what these other ones are that are messing up your primary. So start with the most important plugin on your site, which in your case is WooCommerce. Switch to a default theme if you can. I don't know if you can, but if you can't, don't worry about it. Just do WooCommerce and the other theme. And I'm probably not on the camera. I'm way over here, so no one sees my funny faces. Anyway, so you're isolating the fault domain. You get them down to 2 plugins, a plugin and a theme, and then you slowly turn on one plugin at a time until it breaks.
Okay.
And that will help you figure out exactly which one is causing the issue.
Okay.
And that's called isolating the fault domain, because you have isolated it down to, okay, does my WooCommerce site work with just WooCommerce and the theme? Yeah, maybe all this other stuff isn't working right now that's part of these other things that I've got running on it. But slowly turn one on at a time until you find the one that breaks it.
But definitely switch off the theme too, because it could be something as simple, because you said your developer walked away.
Yeah.
The developer might have made modifications to WooCommerce that are
Oh, I'm pretty sure she did.
that are living inside the
I'm
theme.
pretty sure she did.
Yeah, that's the only place you would put them is inside the theme. So yeah, turn the theme off. Switch to download. What is the one that WooCommerce has that's really good now?
Shop, I think.
Is it called Shop?
I think so.
Is it Shop or
Very
Store?
simple.
Yeah, it's Shop or Store. It's whatever the one that it's free, it's responsive.
Oh,
and it's
storefront.
Storefront. It's the one by Automatic.
The Jessica theme is a Studio Press theme, depends on Genesis.
Oh,
And it's,
Yes.
and it's a third-party theme, so Studio Press didn't write it.
okay.
So maybe you can go to Studio Press, maybe they'll support it, maybe they won't. But they should be able to point you
I didn't know you
to
worked
the road to Jessica theme. Because they have some sort of relationship with them, or they never would have allowed them to put their theme on the Studio Press site. So even if you can't find your own contact information, you can definitely go through Studio Press.
Studio Press, okay. So that's who has that.
19 is actually the Jessica.
I think so. Let me just
19
double
is
check.
the Jessica.
Hang on, we'll figure it out.
So with the blocks,
Yeah, sorry.
it eliminates the use or the need for all these widgets.
What does?
Does the Gutenberg eliminates the use of
Well,
all the widgets?
Maybe not, because when you think about it, all right.
Well, for now, Gutenberg is just focused on the content itself, not your sidebar. So if
Yeah.
you're putting widgets in your sidebar, or if your theme supports putting widgets in the header or the footer or elsewhere in the site, you'll still be using widgets for that.
Yeah.
This is purely right now just for the content itself.
Everything below the menu, everything from the rapid sidebar, just the content block. That's all they're focusing on right now for the Gutenberg editor.
Right.
And I mean, when it comes down to think about it, it's like the builders that you use still use widgets sometimes. They do the whole concept of like a global area so that they can control stuff so that can show on multiple pages. But that's kind of what you have to think about, is that the reason you use widgets and the reason you use sidebars, the reason you use navigation menus, the reason you use a standard header across your site and a standard footer across your site is so that you don't have to go in there and edit that on every single page. However, if you have a situation where you do want to show content that is specific on a page, like you want a landing page that does the hero pip image and everything pushes them down to the call of the action and there's nothing else on there, that's when you want a page that has no header, has no menu, has no sidebar, has no footer. And that's a different kind of a thing. And that's where, in a lot of ways, that's where these Divi Builders and Elementors have become very popular, because you have the ability to turn off all of the standard elements of a WordPress page and get just a plain white page that you can build the way you want it to. Or load a template in that puts all that there, and then you just modify it. So I mean, there's a lot of reason behind it. I totally understand it. But those are special purpose pages. For most of your content, and this is all about content strategy, for most of your content, if you think about your end users, when you're thinking about your end users, they're looking for stuff to be in a consistent place on your website, like her e-commerce site. People are looking for products. They know that if they go to a product search page, they get a grid of products. They can filter it all down by this whole little faceted search thing over here, or if they're on a phone, they can do it pretty quickly. But they go to the content page, they get product price, quantities, blah, 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 goes to a shopping cart, purchase, buy, done. They want to get in and out of there as fast as possible. They don't want to live on your site unless it's something that they're actually interested in living on there about. Like if it's a real estate site, it's going to be a very consistent display of the properties that are available at your real estate company. You know, that's kind of what it comes down to. Everything about the web should be, when you're dealing with content, is about consistency. Your end users are looking for a consistent interface when they're trying to find stuff. That's honestly a lot of the reasons why those big landing pages that draw people in and push them to the content, and, you know, and all the little pictures point towards the little button. You know, the reason they all work like that is because, again, it's a consistent interface. People are used to it. Hero image. Okay, you got me. Oh, so this is why I want to buy it. Okay, buy. You know, they have a consistent interface. They all look exactly the same. That's not going to change.
Right.
Yeah. So when you're creating consistent interfaces, that means putting content in the specific thing so that you know what that interface is, and designing an output for that display that is consistent. A template, basically, that works for that content. You know, like the shopping carts and like the list of products and stuff. And that's why, I mean, these are great. The Gutenberg editor, yeah, it's going to work like Medium. It's going to work like Storify. And, well, it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. It's great if I'm writing a novel. It's great if I'm writing, like, you know, news articles, and I want to include an image here and a figure there and a chart here and a that here and a that here and a couple and a pull quote in and pull in like this nice little thing. Yeah, it's great. I'll be able to do all of that. But how many of us are actually doing that? You know, writers are. Writers are. We have a content editor right there. He's hiding and playing on his phone right now. Totally oblivious. Okay. Any other questions? I know you guys have got, yeah.
So if you have the plugin and then the 5 comes out, version 5, do you delete that plugin after?
Yeah, it would automatically. Since it's from them, it will automatically deactivate and disable. So yeah, because right now that's how they typically do it. If you've ever, I don't know if you play with REST API or any of the other. Was there ever anything else like this that they have pushed to us like this that they made us play with first in a plugin?
MP6.
Okay, yeah. When they changed the big admin interface, you remember when WordPress's admin just completely changed, and like it is now. I mean, we're so used to it now; it looks like we've always used it. That was in a plugin first, and that was a way so that you could play with it ahead of time. And then when it came out of the live version, it just went away.
Okay. So if you update the 5, then you do the manager.
Yeah, the Gutenberg manager is its own plugin. It's completely different. It's a standalone.
But that manager, then you can go in and that's where you can click on.
Disable entirely. Yeah.
And then but the site will be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It would still be
fine unless you start editing your content completely in the new editor.
Well, I mean, if you use the Gutenberg manager and you disable the Gutenberg across the board, you'll never see the Gutenberg editor until you allow it to turn on. So, and I mean, that's mine. Is like, I was so annoyed when they did the text editor plugin. I mean, I wasn't impacted by it a lot, but I did have some old sites that were. Mm-hmm. But when they changed that text widget without, I mean, you don't ever change an existing thing that you know is going to break everyone that uses, because everyone's used the text widget for short codes and HTML. Yeah, don't do that.
Okay.
You create something new to replace it, but you never ever replace the one that's already there. And that's kind of why this is so drastic, because they're changing the editor.
Right. And
the editor is going to impact everyone that uses the editor. So,
okay.
Which is everyone.
Everyone. I mean, every single plugin out there that has a text box uses the MCE editor. Every single post type, yeah, it's ugly.
Which the MCE editor is the visual editor that you see in
now
editor.
The classic editor.
Yeah.
The classic editor, that box with the little toolkit on the top and stuff. Mm-hmm. The way we're used to seeing it. That's anything that ever uses that as an editor box is going to be impacted by this. So any plugin that uses that, anything. So. And there's a lot that's used in every. I mean, it's used in Elementor. It's used in Beaver Builder. It's used in Divi. It's used in all of them. They all use that WYSIWYG editor. So
It's used in Gutenberg.
yes, it's used in Gutenberg even. So go figure. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this, but that's just me.
And when is version 5 coming
We don't know, and neither does Automatic. I mean, even when the guy from Automatic sent us a note, he said even though I'm inside the back end and everything, I have no idea when this is coming out.
So right now, Gutenberg 2.8 was just released. They generally do releases every 1 to 2 weeks. And as of the meeting yesterday, they said they were targeting version 3.0 to be what they call the merge proposal, which is where they say, hey, this feature is ready to be merged into WordPress itself.
But they still don't have all of the custom post type stuff in there yet. And they're still treating custom post types like redheaded stepchildren.
It's
one of those kind of things. Is like almost 80% of your plugins are based on custom post types. If you use a portfolio plugin, if you use any kind of a gallery plugin, if you use anything of that nature, a slide plugin, they're all based on custom post types. They're all using a WYSIWYG editor. They're all using custom meta. For them to push this so heavily without having thought about this at the beginning and integrated it pisses me off.
The biggest lesson we're learning isn't even so much of that, though, is if you have your own developer that's developed like custom shortcodes for you, or anything custom that works with that, you don't even write it the same way anymore. It's not even PHP. You're writing a JavaScript with something called React, which is an entirely new skill set.
Yeah.
So if you have a site with a developer that's made custom shortcodes, whatever, if you go to TinyMCE, the editor now, and you have a custom button in there that inserts whatever it might be, that's probably your biggest worry with most sites, is you're going to have your developer completely rewrite that feature and learn the new language, learn the new framework.
This is just a thought, but I'm wondering, is this their way to force everyone to learn? I mean, basically, they did the entire WordPress.com backend that they rewrote into React, into their JavaScript language.
And Calypso's all React.
And Calypso and stuff like that. Is this their way to force all of us?
I don't know if it's so much force, it's just that's what they're comfortable with. That's what they've been doing.
I don't think that's right. I think if you have a developer who's written a feature for you in PHP, right, and they have a shortcode, and you put that shortcode in a post, and it does something, some new thing that's...
The shortcode will render.
Yeah.
Right. But it's that tiny MCE button that, a lot of shortcodes have selector buttons.
Say in the editor there's a...
button in tiny MCE. Instead of manually typing the shortcode, a lot of developers will give you a part of the wizard.
A wizard. They'll give you a wizard.
A wizard, thank you.
Okay.
So you don't have to actually type out that shortcode. That's what'll break. But the shortcode itself, as they were showing earlier, will work fine. But
because the end users
are used to hitting a button, and now they have to type this weird, strings where you're going to have problems.
Yeah, that's what Elaine was talking about too, because like you would have to, your end users aren't used to putting in a shortcode that just freaks them out. But maybe you've shown them how to use the editor thing that does the columns, if you haven't. Huh?
Once they get the hang of it, the learning curve is quite substantial
It's
for
huge.
the first block.
Because plenty of developers have just like gone to tutorials that say, hey, how do I put a button that will make a wizard and put a thing into a post? And they just copy and paste, change the little things they need, and they're good to go.
And you don't think somebody's going to make one of those for
Oh, they totally will, but it won't be right away.
Yeah.
If you upgrade,
And that's why I think
and that learning curve.
they're rushing this for that very reason.
Oh,
Yeah. I think they-
An agreement
But I
on
think
that.
Yeah.
all those things are going to be addressed and relatively quickly.
Yeah, John, one of the things that I said a long time ago was like the whole reason that we're on video.
Editing.
No, I don't ever edit these. I'm going to actually just shut off the video at this point. Okay, we're done with the WordPress meetup for the day. Here. You have just watched a recorded presentation from our WordPress St. Petersburg meetup. We meet twice a month in downtown St. Petersburg at the Tech Garage. If you've enjoyed this presentation and found it useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. You can find out more about us at tampabaywp.org and at our meetup site at meetup.com/WordPress St. Petersburg. Thanks.